Welcome, collective. Welcome to your reading. This is a general collective reading, so take what resonates and leave the rest for those that need to hear it. I'm still working with the Norse mythology tarot, which is really beautiful. Today's reading, I've already laid out your cards from the main deck. We do not have any more of the fire suit, which is interesting. And I was looking at the true sky with the sun, and I did forget to mention that at this time when the sun is like between the Pisces, Aries, and that void space, which it's now in Aries, it's also touching onto the constellation Cetus, which is like the cosmic, like serpent, kind of dragon, sea monster, that kind of energy and mythology, Cetus. And then, so interestingly, in the center of this, I'm not saying Nidhogger is Cetus, but in the center of this reading, we have this kind of figure, dragon figure, Nidhogger. And then we also even have the Jormungandr as well. So I just thought it was really interesting. I was just looking at the skies and thinking about the relevance with Cetus, and obviously like Aries being the hero, and it's like to do with the hero's quest and new beginnings and all that, and it's about like, you know, kind of fighting and that energy. And Cetus is like this, you know, sea dragon creature monster that yeah, it's really interesting anyway that synchronicity came up for me just now. I hope you're doing amazing. And on the bottom of the deck, today, the shadow of the deck is actually Thor. So this deck does seem to have like the proper vowels, like Nordic vowels. If you are from that background, please correct me. I don't understand the Nordic language on any depth at all. And I know that there are many different Nordic languages, so I'm not even sure exactly which one this would be, like if it would be Norwegian or, you know, Swedish or Danish or, you know, Icelandic. You know, those Nordic languages, there's quite a few. So this one we have Thor, and Thor's symbolism, so he's one of the main main figures in this tarot deck, is the protector of the worlds. So wow, beautiful energy to begin with here. Thor is the god of thunder, protector of order and the gods. With his hammer, Mjolnir, he defends the world from the attacks of chaos. Thor represents the strength that protects, responsibility, authority, and stability built on action and duty. Themes are around stability, protection, responsibility. Thor invites you to take a stand and build with strength and discipline. Act with courage and lead those around you. It's interesting to me that yesterday's reading we had that kind of leading energy, and we also had the Mjolnir, Thor's, and we also had Sif, his wife. We had his wife, we had his weapon. Anyway, today it's opened quite differently, and I have wondered about the Brisingamen because this card, when I was shuffling, jumped out, and I kept shuffling, and it's come out as the first card. Frigg also did come out. A bunch of cards came out. Bragi was there, Gamia was there, quite a few of these cards. And once again, we have Odin in this bottom corner again. He's been here for quite a few readings now. So interesting. So today we start with Brisingamen, and it is in the suit of Fee. So it's part of the wealth generating suit. The suit of fee is about wealth, material goods, stability, concrete desires, but also of attachment, accumulation, loss, and transformation of value. It's the earth that offers and holds, that welcomes seeds and guards secrets. It's the weight of things, but also their beauty. And so this one we have is number 6. So this is Freya's precious necklace, a symbol of beauty and power, symbolizing charm, creativity, seductive energy. Brisingamen invites you to cultivate your personal power with grace. So that is really lovely there. We have it next to Frigg, not Freya, and Frigg is different. There are some correlations with Frigg and Freya, and we don't actually have Freya today, but yeah, she's the goddess of love and beauty, traditionally, often associated with Venus, with like Friday, Freya's day. So the next card we have is Frigg. And so she's number 2 in the main deck. So she would be similar to your High Priestess energies in this deck. So Frigg is the wife of Odin. So she's regarded in this deck as the secret soothsayer. Frigg is the queen of the gods, goddess of silent wisdom, clairvoyance, and secrets. Frigg embodies the power of the unsaid, the wisdom that observes and guards. She is the inner voice that guides without speaking. So here's our Frigg, sorry. Really beautiful cards. I'm not sure. I have looked into this deck. I'm not sure. I don't think they're AI. I haven't been able to find out much about the artist. I believe they're Italian. I'm not sure exactly. So symbolizing intuition, mystery, hidden wisdom. Frigg invites silence and deep listening. There is a truth that does not show on the surface. Trust your feelings. So that is interesting next to the Brisingamen. So this one was more about charm, but then Frigg is pointing to more of a silent knowing and an inner wisdom. The next card we have is the Jormungandr. Jormungandr, which is of the water suit. So I was talking about Cetus before, and I mean the mythology of the stars I think ties in here, interestingly, that the sun is touching on that constellation at the moment. So it's number 10 in the suit of Hav, which is the water suit. It's the Drottinn of Hav. The world serpent, son of Loki, surrounds Midgard and holds together the cosmic balance. Its existence is a continuous tension between control and destruction. Jormungandr is the cycle of emotions that close in on themselves, the immensity that embraces and threatens, symbolizing why can't I say that? Sometimes I get a bit tongue-tied. Cyclicity. So like cycles, basically. Intense emotions, deep balance. Jormungandr reminds you that even what seems immense can be contained. So, wow, that's a really interesting energy next to Frigg, because she's this silent, all-knowing goddess. So hopefully that puts some concerns to rest there. The next card we have, so flanking our main card, is the rune Uruz. And Uruz is the rune to do with strength. So it is number 2 of the rune suit. And it represents primordial strength and vigorous health, symbolizing vital energy, courage, resilience. Uruz pushes you to face challenges with determination and strength. So we've got determination and strength also linked with the charm, needing some. Yeah, so using charm might help in these situations today. So the next card, which is the central card, we have, so Nidhogger. Nidhogger is of the East, or Ice suit, and the East suit is about limits, boundaries, emotional chill, but also resilience, rebirth, and mystery. Ice preserves and prepares. Nothing moves, yet everything can change. So this one is the Drotten of Ease. So the wyvern gnawing at the roots of Yggdrasil, symbol of hidden corruption and inevitably cyclicity, is that same word? Cyclicity, there we go. Because we had that with the Jormungandr as well, which it is linked with in this reading. And the whole Cetus mystery in the sky. Nidhogger represents what works in the shadows, the putrefaction that prepares rebirth, the necessary end, symbolizing slow process, inner transformation, useful end. Nidhogger reminds you that even decomposition is part of the cycle. Wow, that's really interesting, because it is all about the new cycle with Aries, and then the fact that Cetus, just there's a little bit of the constellation that does actually kind of poke into the ecliptic where the sun goes through, and it's always been a little bit of a mystery where people will say, oh no, there's a 14th sign, it's Cetus. And yeah, it does actually, the sun does go near that, like, yeah. So it's quite significant, but it's very small, like, yeah. So it is important. Decomposition is an important part of before the new growth can come. So it's something that I think maybe even, it's not that we want to forget about it. We're often quite removed from it in some ways. Interesting. So, and it's interesting also that we've got Nidhogger and Jormungandr. Then we have Odinn, so that's interesting. The next one, however, we have is Garm. And so Garma is actually also of the Is suit. And Garm is actually 8, the 8 of Is. Hellhound that guards Helheimia, embodies the threshold between life and death, symbolizing final protection, pure instinct, warning. Garma guards what must remain hidden. So, wow. There's some really powerful, it's such a powerful tarot. I mean, the Nordic mythology is, it's a very powerful mythological belief system, with all the sagas. And the next card that we have, which we've had in this position a few times, is Odin. So he's the wandering wise. Odin is the god of wisdom and vision. He hangs himself on the Yggdrasil for 9 nights, alone and in silence, to gain knowledge of the runes. Odin represents the inner search, the guidance that is gained in the darkness, the retreat necessary to find deeper truths, symbolizing introspection, wisdom, inner guidance. Odin invites you to be silent and fertile, to silence and fertile solitude. Look for answers not in the outside world, but within you. So that is really good advice anyway. I mean, Frigg was talking about the inner knowing as well. So yeah, this reading's quite, yesterday was a lot more active. This one is more like introverted type of reading. However, obviously we have Nidhogger in the center, and we also had Gamma, and they were really relevant too. So cyclicity, and about reminding you that what seems immense can be contained. So there's like a battle, intense emotions. So the next card that we have is Golvig. So Golvig is the 5 of Fee. She's of the Fee suit. Beautiful Golvig. So yeah, Golvig, the Witch of Gold, symbol of longing and desire that can corrupt or transform, symbolizing profound transformation, power of desire, ability to change. Golvig invites you to work on your inner passions. So it's interesting, considering we have her with Odin, there was some conflict with them as well. But she has a very strong energy. I think she's very underrated. I did she came up in some other cards recently, and her energy, I feel really pulled towards her energy a lot. The moon is actually going into Leo today. It's right at the end of Cancer, and for me, Golvig has some of that Leo type of energy. She is linked to gold, but also like she's very creative and like a leader. Like she, even though they try to off her multiple times in different ways, and they can't, and that she transforms into gold. So yeah, she's got a real link to like alchemy and transformation and things like that, which is interesting because the advice for the Nidhogger was about that, even when things seem that they are so immense, they can't be contained. They can be. So he has an energy here as well. Yeah. Okay, the last card we have here is it's in the main deck, and it's Bragi, he's like the poet, which is interesting that they've named him as number 1 here. So the poet. Bragi is the god of poetry and eloquence. His words shape reality, giving form to the invisible. Bragi represents the creative power of the mind, the ability to transform intent into action through words, gestures, and knowledge, symbolizing talent, communication, active beginning. Bragi invites you to use what you know to speak, to create. You have the tools. Now put them into practice. So wow, that's quite beautiful with the Golvig energy here. I think. I mean, it's interesting also with the Nidhogger and the Brisingamen. So that's about using your charm, knowing things that seem immeasurable can be contained. And Bragi is saying to be creative. I do think that the poetry aspect is very relevant. I'm not sure if you're into poetry. However, you know, words do cast spells, and poems have certain arrangements that can like raise or even lower energies. You know, they can really, the way the words sound together, you know, it's like magic, like casting spells. So, which very much is a very Norse mythology thing. The cards I'm going to clarify with today are the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. And on the bottom of the deck, we have Strength, which is quite interesting because we had the Rune of Strength as well. So to clarify our Brisingamen, we have the Ace of Cups. So this is a new beginning on an emotional level, potentially in love. It doesn't have to be like a partnership love relationship, but there's like a loving energy here. Interesting that it was talking about using charms. So, I mean, maybe if you do meet someone new, you should turn on the charms. Turn on the charm. Obviously, don't be fake, but yeah. So, for Frigg, which was about inner knowing and not even needing to speak, the Seven of Swords was actually flanking our central card yesterday. So this card is about trying to disarm your enemy. So there is some conflict here, but that you need to not, it has a hidden energy to it. So it's about not really, it can be deceitful, and it can even be that others are being deceitful as well. But it's also about using that to kind of disarm your opponent. So using some kind of trickery or deceit or craftiness to win against this opponent that you'll need to, basically. And I mean, she's saying to be silent. So there's something that you shouldn't say, potentially. You need to hold your tongue about something. Okay, so the next one for the Jormungandr, which was very much linked with the creative destructive cycles. We have the Emperor to clarify. So the Emperor is often linked with the sign of Aries. So I'm not sure if this is a person or if this is just talking of that Aries energy that you need to embody, but that also would be very present at this time, having the Sun in the transit of Aries. So it could even be speaking of the fact that we're in a cycle at the moment, kind of in between the cycle of creation and destruction of something. And this Emperor energy is, there's a leading figure involved here in this, and that could be in your own life as well, obviously, as also within the outer world as well. So for the Uras, the Strength rune, we have the Sun. So both of these cards are really positive. So the Sun, you know, illuminates everything it touches, and the Uras was talking about strength and also resilience and good health. So the Sun is also a really good card to clarify if there are any bad health. You know, the Sun does heal as well. And then for our Nidhogger, we have the Five of Cups. So the Five of Cups does signify some loss. It does also signify that something remains. So, for example, it can be a card of inheritance, transmission, and patrimony. It can signify marriage, but not without bitterness and frustration. So yeah, that's the traditional symbolism. 3 of the cups are emptied, 2 remain up, right? So there's something there, but there is loss that has occurred. I mean, we have this skull here, but there is the castle in the background. So with Nidhogger, which was very much linked in with cyclicity again, so it's that creative destructive energy. However, it talks about what works in the shadows, the putrefaction that prepares rebirth, the necessary end, slow process, inner transformation, useful end. So there's an ending here, and it's slow, but it's very transformative, and there's some loss. However, there's some gain. There is some gain here as well. With the two of the cups are upright. So it's good to focus on, you know, what remains. That's the advice. So for Garma, the clarifying card is the Nine of Pentacles. So the Nine of Pentacles is a really positive card. It does signify a lot of financial abundance and also self-reliance within that. The symbol is often the wealthy man's daughter, and so it's interesting because he is the guardian of Helheim, so he does represent protection, instinct, warning, and guards what must remain hidden. So there's some resources that are hidden. I'm not sure if there's some inheritance or something going on here, but there's some inheritance that's hidden and guarded at this time. Okay, so to clarify Odin, so the god of wisdom, we have the star. So the star is a really beautiful card. So the Odin card was about introspection, wisdom, inner guidance. And then the star is very much about hopes and wishes. So even though there has been some loss here, it's good to focus on what is and what you want to do with it, like what your hopes and visions and dreams for the future are. The Gulvi card, we have clarifying the Queen of Swords. Beautiful combination. So the Queen of Swords is quite a sharp-minded female figure. So she potentially has a sharp tongue. She can be quite cutting with her words. The Queen of Wands can represent widowhood traditionally. So she has experienced loss. So she knows about sorrow, but she's also gained wisdom from that, which is so interesting with Golvi, because she was really persecuted. You know, they tried to off her so many times. I can't imagine, you know, surely that would bring some sorrow, but wisdom, you know, I can see the relevance here with the Queen of Swords. So it does, yeah, it's a feminine card. It can represent a female in your life. So it's of the air suit, so it would be potentially a Gemini, Libra, Aquarian, or someone with strong placements in those signs. So someone that's experienced pain, but that has gathered wisdom from going through that experience. Or maybe you are as well. So that, yeah. So Bragi was clarified by the Hierophant. And the Hierophant, once again, he is associated with wise figures and the potential that we need to seek advice from someone with the skills that we're looking for at this time. And so interesting that Bragi is all about poetry and creativity and that kind of energy. So if you are wanting to branch out in those areas, it might be wise, well, it would be wise to seek, you know, and I'm not saying you have to seek on a level of, like, depending on your situation, not everyone can afford to, you know, buy a mentor's time or something, but there are plenty of resources out there that, you know, aren't exactly free, but maybe depending on your situation could be minimal cost to, you know, even get inspiration or something like that from. So the next cards I'm going to pull from here are the Lenormand. On the bottom of the deck, we have the Whip, and it's actually reversed. So I'm going to take it as a reversed card. The Whip generally signifies conflict and fighting and repetitive. It's a very repetitious energy. So there may have been some conflict or some, you know, in your life that's been going on and on and on, but the cycle could be broken now or could be breaking now. So the first card we have is the Tower. So this is all about seeing things from a higher perspective, which is interesting. With the Frigg we have, this is to clarify Frigg, and the Seven of Swords. So yeah, she was about, you know, that silence and the inner knowing and stuff. So it's saying to look from a higher perspective. Here, wow, oh my goodness, for our Nidhogg and the Five of Cups, which was talking about loss, but also, you know, looking at what remains. We have the Coffin. So this one does signify death. It doesn't have to signify an actual death, but there is change. There is change. That's what it signifies. The ending of one phase and the beginning of another. And then the last card today, wow, we have is the Woman. We have the Woman to clarify the Queen of Swords and Golvi. Wow, so this is a woman. I'm not sure if this is you or this is your love interest or your partner or your mother or your daughter. I'm not sure who this is, and it's a feminine energy. So the next cards I'm going to use to clarify are the Kipper, and on the bottom of the Kipper we have Courthouse. So there could be some underlying theme linked in here with the law and justice system, wherever you are. To clarify the Tower, we have despair. So interesting. So even though you're seeing things, you know, and you're maybe not talking about what you're seeing, there's that inner knowing, there's some deceit and trickery going on, and there's an overview, you're seeing it, maybe you're feeling despair about it as well. I mean, you would be. I mean, who wants to be tricked and deceived? Who wants to see that? Okay, next card we have, the central card to clarify is High Honor. Oh my goodness. So we have the Nidhogg, we have the Five of Cups, we have the Coffin, and we have a High Honor. So if there was a death, this could be someone that was important. It's the High Honor card, often it represents someone of rank. So there's a loss here. There's potential death, and there's a High Honor, and there's the Nidhogg as well. So even if it doesn't signify a death, it just could mean that this change is linked to someone that is in a position of power, or that you are in a potential position of power, even though, you know, it's not easy. It's not easy here. And then to clarify Golvi, Queen of Swords, the Woman, we have community. So this is very linked in with your community. This woman, this transformative energy, the potential loss, widowhood, wisdom gained. And this woman, we have community. Okay, so the last cards, actually not the last cards, the next cards I'm going to pull from are actually the Rune Oracle. And on the bottom of the Rune deck, we have Uruz, which we've already had today with the Sun. So that's a really potent energy here. First card we have is, oh wow, so Willow. So this is the Sun card, and we have the Sun card here. We have the Sun card, we have the Sun card. So this is a really protective card, and it does signify success and yeah, good health and protection and things like that. So okay, this is to clarify these guys. So wow, even though there's despair, and maybe that's why it's telling you to see it from a higher perspective, because even though there is despair and there's trickery and deceit here, the sun still rises. So it's not the end. There's actually a really positive energy coming in. And then we have here, wow, oh my goodness, the central rune, we have Algiz. This is a very protective rune. It symbolizes life and protection. So this is for the Nidhogger and the loss and the potential death and of the high honor. But there's a protection. There's a protective energy here as well. And then the last rune today we have is Wunyo. So this is so nice. So for this woman who has been through a lot and transformed her maybe pain into gold, you know, this potential loss into wisdom, this feminine energy and this community, we have the card. It's a card for a rune, and the rune Wunyo is joy, pleasure, belonging, kindred, and prosperity. So this is our base energy here. Beautiful. So the next cards I'm going to read from is the Wilder ones. So we've got regeneration, new growth, and strength. My body heals itself and remembers its original blueprint. Higher learning and spiritual inquiries. So the recording cut out. These are the last two cards if you want to see them and read them for the central and the bottom position. This is the true sky, conjunction in Pisces breaking up. And then the sun right in Cetus area of the sky. And the Uranus-Venus conjunction still very close in Taurus. Jupiter in Gemini, close to the Wasat star. And the moon is moving into true sky Leo today. And the Cetus.
I am truly honored to receive this award and share this moment of success with all of you gathered here today.